here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the common firearms that you'll see in STALKER 2. Since many of y'all are going to be shipped overseas to be fighting in a war in Eastern Europe soon, this is a great time to brush up on your Eastern Bloc firearms. This video is going to be an overview of all the firearms in the game, as well as their real-life counterparts. We're going to be showing some of the uses and advantages of the firearms in-game, as well as some of the differences between the real deal and their in-game counterparts. Most of the firearms you see here we'll also be making separate videos on and going through the history of them, so stay tuned to the channel for future episodes.
Handguns. These firearms will be your secondary when all else fails. Although early in the game, you will be relying on them as your primary till you can upgrade to something better. PTM. This is the iconic Makarov PM. It is the starter pistol every stalker begins with in the Stalker games, and STALKER 2 is no different. Chambered in 9x18, you're going to want to land a headshot if you want to stand a chance against the enemies in the zone. And it's not too great at taking out mutants. While called the PTM in-game, there are cutscenes where they call it by its correct name, the PM, which is interesting. UDP Compact. This is simply a USP Tactical, chambered in 45 ACP. However, in-game, the handgun has worse damage and stats than the Makarov, and only beats it out in the accuracy department, which I think is funny as hell. Rhino. It appears to be a generic revolver with some flair added to it, but has no real-world counterpart and is not related to the real-life Rhino that is known for its low bore axis. However, unlike most revolvers, this handgun is chambered in the same caliber as the VSS Vintorez, in 9x39, which is absolutely crazy. Snipers. As you would expect, these firearms are used for taking out assailants at longer distances, and suit playstyles of individuals who prefer long-distance engagements. The M701 Super. This firearm is very clearly based on the popular bolt-action Remington 700, which has been configured for decades for various different tasks. For example, ours here is a stock long-action 700 and 300 Win Mag. In the game, we have a standard short-action 700 chambered in 308, configured in an Archangel stock. This firearm does have some of the best penetration and accuracy in the game, but is really only effective for long-range engagements. Mark I EMR. One would think this is supposed to be based on a Mark XIV EBR, but it clearly has the Springfield M1A style folding stock with added rails, but with an M1 Garand receiver, very much an abomination, and does seem to be based more on the M1A than anything. The SVD-M2. As the name implies, this is clearly the iconic SVD Dragunov. My love. The version in the game is clearly a Soviet-based model, with the external lightning cuts, as later, post-Soviet models would have slab-side receivers. Although the firearm in-game also has the 3-hole handguards, which would indicate that the firearm is actually a Polish-configured SVDM. Given the name, that seems to track well, as the Polish SVDMs were simply modified Soviet SVD rifles. Chambered in 7.62x54R, the firearm in-game doesn't have the same damage as the M701. But thanks to its semi-automatic nature, you can much more effectively take out multiple targets long distance. In the West, we typically refer to firearms like this as DMRs, although Eastern Bloc doctrine puts DMRs in the same category as sniper rifles. SVU MKS-3. One of the few properly named firearms, prior to the MK designation, This firearm is very clearly an OTS-03 SVU, which is a bullpup version of the SVD. While semi-auto only in-game, there is a variant in real life called the OTS-03A, which has select fire capability and is the only full auto SVD variant out there. VS Vintar. The classic VSS Vintorez, my beloved. This firearm is a staple of the STALKER games, and without a doubt, one of my favorites in-game and in real life too. Chambered in 9x39, this firearm doesn't have the same range or damage as the other firearms in the sniper class, but it makes up for it in the rate of fire, making it a great mid-range and all-rounder firearm that can be used closer or long distance as needed. If I could have only one gun in the zone, this would be my choice. Rifles. Rifles are going to be your mainstay, the primary firearm you use in the game day-to-day to survive the zone. Which one you choose will be based on your particular playstyle and preference. AS Lavina. Val, my true beloved! The in-game model is close to the real AS Val, but unlike the real deal, this one has what looks like a custom ergonomic pistol grip, similar to the ones on Arsenal imported Makarovs, and custom handguards. This firearm is chambered in 9x39 like the VSS, and although it should be the same stat-wise, the firearm is objectively worse than the VSS, as in-game it is less accurate and does less damage. SAU. This firearm is interesting because it's clearly based on the VSS, but not a real firearm. It clearly has a shorter barrel and suppressor, and uses an AR-15 grip and has a B&T style PDW stock. Dnipro. This firearm is based on the Vulcan M, which is a Ukrainian modification to the Kalashnikov rifle to make it more compact by bullpupping your AK. In-game, it uses an AK-74 base in 5.45x39. AKM-74S. As the STALKER games like to do, the AKM-74S is actually an AKS-74, and not in fact an AKM. It is chambered in 5.45x39, as you would expect, and has the standard triangle side folder. But man, is it hard to find one in-game that has good durability, and it seems everyone that drops just jams on me. AKM-74U. Once again, a mislabeled firearm. Unlike the previous games, where the game model was shown in 7.62x39, which would be correct for its AKM designation, but in the previous games it also had a triangle folder, which would be incorrect for the AKM-SU. In STALKER 2, it is chambered in 5.45x39, which would make this an AKS-74U. However, the firearm has an underfolder stock now, like the real AKM-SU prototype, just not in 7.62x39 anymore. So it seems the devs just have never been able to get this one right. GP37. The classic firearm used by Freedom. This firearm is simply just a full-size G36 in 5.56x45, a true AR-18 derivative, with a short-stroke gas piston system and made of glorious German polymer. In-game, it does have better stats than the HK416, so if you must wield an HK, this is the one. Fora 221. based on the Ukrainian Fort 221, which is a licensed clone of the IWI Tavor, only in 545x39 instead of 556x45. In-game, they kept this the same, and the firearm shares the same ammunition with the AK-74 derivatives. The Fort 221 does have better overall stats compared to the AK-74, and has more attachment options, making it one of the better firearms in 545. AR-416. This is simply an HK-416 in 556x45, which is at its core a short-stroke gas piston AR-15 derivative. It is one of the first 556 firearms you will come across in the zone. But overall, the ammo is hard to come by, and honestly, the G36 is a better 556 option in this game. Submachine guns. Submachine guns in the game are great for close quarters, and for taking on multiple assailants, although they are not particularly effective against mutants. Viper 5. The Viper 5 is one of the first firearms you will encounter in the game, and a firearm you will be using a lot in the early parts of the game. It is based on the HK MP5A3 with the collapsible stock, but it seems all the magazines they have in the zone are the early straight-style magazines, which in real life have been known to be unreliable, hence why HK went to curved magazines. Chambered in 9x19, the ammunition is easy to obtain, resulting in a high usage of the firearm through the early hours. Zuber 19. This firearm is based on the PP-19 Bizone. Fun fact, there's a cool project going on right now here in the US to replicate the Bizone, and we will be featuring it on our channel soon, so stay tuned for more news on that. The Bizone is chambered in 9x18. In-game, it is objectively better than the MP5, as you have more capacity, and the stats are better all around on the firearm. Integral A. Clearly based on the Chris Vector, except in-game this firearm is chambered for 9mm instead of 45 ACP like the originals. Although it should be noted, Chris does sell a commercial version in 9mm. This firearm is one of the more controllable SMGs in-game, and has the best accuracy and penetration in this category. Machine pistols. The last two SMGs are basically crappy machine pistols that you won't be using much. There's the Bukit S2, which is just a Tula OTS-02, and there's the M10, which is just a MAC-10. Machine guns. There's only one machine gun, which is the RPM-74. The firearm itself is very clearly patterned off of a PKM. However, it is chambered in 7.62x39 in-game, so it's basically a rechambered PKM, but called an RPM-74. And you would think that the 74 designation would imply it's chambered in 5.45x39, right? But I guess not. To add to insult, you can clearly see the rounds are actually 7.62x54R due to the rimmed cartridge, especially during the reload animation. Video game logic right here. Shotguns. Shotguns in general are great for combating hard-to-kill mutants, especially bloodsuckers, which are very difficult to kill in this game compared to the others. Sega 12D. Appropriately named the Sega 12, as it is a Sega 12. This and the Spaz 12 are the best shotguns to use in the game, as they're semi-auto and make taking down mutants easier. Ram 2. Clearly a clone of the DP-12. There was a lot of hype around it a decade ago, as it was a unique bullpup-style double-barrel pump-action shotgun. In-game, you can quickly take out powerful mutants with it, but the slow reload makes this firearm not as good as the Saiga. TAS-34. It's a 12-gauge shotgun that is a common sporter firearm made by Tula on the European market, but not something that we have here in the US. SBSA-14 has the same name from the previous games. This is simply the iconic and popular Italian semi-auto 12-gauge shotgun, the SPAS-12. It is a semi-auto shotgun with a high rate of fire and is effective at taking down mutants. But again, due to the slow reload speed, the Saiga 12 still comes out on top. The Boomstick. This gun is simply just a generic 12-gauge double-barreled sawed-off shotgun with exposed hammers. Nothing really fancy about it. M860. This is simply just the popular 12-gauge Remington 870 tactical model with the pistol grip. One of the first good shotguns you will run into in the game, and will be your companion for taking down many mutants, as the firearm is a magazine-fed pump action and is particularly effective at taking down mutants.
And those are most of the firearms in STALKER 2. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and many of these are also available on Tracks and Armaments, so make sure to check that out. We'll also be releasing more STALKER short films soon, so make sure to subscribe if you're interested in that as well. Well, that's it for now. Sayonara, bitch!